Well, here we are, folks. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. A little old tidbit snatched out of the Bible, of the Word of God, and just passed on to you by myself, who at the age of 30 was an alcoholic, was a man who did not understand, could not read and write, did not understand the Word of God, had been raised around it but rejected it, was definitely on my way to hell. The first 7 verses of chapter 1 of Proverbs is a setting for the person to look at that would follow these instructions in those first 7 verses, first 8 verses, follow these instructions, end up turning his life around and headed toward heaven. But I want to talk about the sure way, the very sure way to make sure that your life is damned and that you will burn in hell forever, is to just not pay attention to what the Word says. Just to not listen to what the Word says. Just to not adhere to what the Word says. To just refuse to hear what the Word says. And you will seal yourself unto that day of judgment in hell, where you will be cast into the lake of fire to live eternally, and the worm dieth not. That means the body, the flesh that you have, will not die. It will live forever in hell fire, squirming and worming, and you will not. You'll still have your memory of all of the ways you could have got out of it and didn't. And so you're going to be tormented more than just fire. You'll be tormented for every moment of life that you've lived and lived against the proverbs of God. Listen to this proverb. The proverb of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. Now, we're reading out of a Bible, and a Bible written in the King James Version, which is the actual language we can really understand. If you're saved, you can understand the word wisdom. The word wisdom is smarter than ordinary stuff. The word wisdom means you take what is said to you during the day and you apply it or do not apply it. You say, that's foolish what that man said. I'd jump off that cliff. I'm going to break my neck. And so you don't jump off the cliff. You got enough wisdom to not do what a foolish man says. And then instruction. You got 6 lanes of traffic, and the fellow tells you, he said, I'm going to instruct you to run across that traffic. I believe you can do it. Are you going to do that? So you got to know wisdom, you got to know instruction. What is instruction? The instruction the man should give you is say, fellow, if you try to cross those 6 lanes of traffic, and they're all doing 70 miles an hour, you're not going to make it, and you're going to die in the middle of that highway, and you're going to get run over 40 times before anybody can even get to you. So, to hear instruction that is of wisdom, to perceive the words of understanding. That means to understand what you heard. If I have a glass of water and somebody says to me, hey, that guy that just walked by, I saw him drop something in that glass of water. I think it would be wise for you to not drink it, to pour it out. Well, that's an instruction from somebody who saw something, who knows something that you don't know, and the best thing you could do is believe what he said and dump that water out. Don't drink it. And so, instruction. Wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. Justice. What is justice? Justice is when you're turned loose. You go to the courthouse and you're being tried, and the jury finds you innocent. That innocent jury verdict says that you are just as if you never had got to the courthouse, that you never had did it, because you are justified in whatever it was you were taking there, is just as if I had never did it. Justified. Just as if I had never did it. And that's what God does when He justifies the soul of a man, and He judges them, and then He gives them what's called equity. Makes them equal with all other justified souls. So, the man on the cross, he was the last guy to get saved as Jesus was headed to the grave for the 3 days. And Jesus said, "This day you will be with me in paradise." So he was the last man on earth while Jesus was on earth that got saved and went with Jesus that day, was justified, just as if he had never sinned, even though he was hanging on the cross. And that man's words were, "We deserve to be on this cross," and he doesn't. And Jesus said, "You will be with me in paradise this day." To give stability and to the simple and to the young man, knowledge and discretion. Knowledge and discretion, the older man is supposed to teach the younger man what to do and what not to do. In this permissive day and age we live in, parents are not teaching their boys to keep their hands off of the girls. They're not teaching the girls to not allow the boys to put their hands on them. And therefore we've got a messed up bunch of teenagers and a bunch of world that has got into immoral sex, which to have sex this side of marriage is immoral sex, and it can lock you in to the road, on that road to destruction, and keep you there until you do die if you don't change your way. You cannot have communion with a righteous God and partake of the things he says not to do. He said, verse 5, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel." Wise counsel. You try to counsel a young man today. Try to counsel one of these slackers that's got his pants down, his whole rear end, his whole underwear is showing. And you try to counsel with that young man and just try to say to him, this new morality is old immorality, and it is not good for you, and I could help you to do better if you would listen. He's going to spit in your face. He's going to spit in your face. He's going to say, "Keep your mind out of my business, man. If I want to wear my pants around my knees, I wear them around my knees." And so you don't have a chance because that guy won't listen to instruction or wise wisdom. He won't listen. He has sealed himself and is sealing himself on a daily basis to destruction because he will not hear what you have to say. Because it says in verse 5 here, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel." So to start being a wise person would be to start listening to counsel. If you should happen to be clicked on to Brother Peter today and listen to one of these for one reason or another, say, "I don't know why I clicked on this old fool, and I'm listening. Yeah, I don't know why I'm listening to him." Well, we've prayed about it and asked God for those to listen that might hear. And if you might hear, you might change the way of life. You might be a pretty good fellow. You might have a pretty good road ahead of you going on. Are you going to have the wisdom to follow that road? You're only going to get it out of this book. If you're in this book, you can get that wisdom. Verse 6. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. Understand a proverb. Understand a proverb. I just had one cross my mind about a fool and his money soon depart. That's a proverb. A fool and his money soon depart. Right down the street from me, right here, man's mother got ran over by a train, and they inherited from the train company hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when they got done paying the lawyer, they only had $60,000, $70,000 left. They took the $67,000, they all bought him a car. They bought him a house. They bought this. and they bought that. They bought plenty of booze, plenty of dope, plenty of stuff to ravel with, and then all of a sudden, there's no more money. Wow. When they bought the car, the man said, oh, you ain't got to pay cash for it. Just pay so much down, and you can pay the rest of the money as you go. Wow. There's no money left. What happens? They come get the car. They come get the house. The police come get the man, put him in jail because he's out laying out on the street, doped up. What happened? The fool and his money soon departed. It happens. I see it. I see it. I see it. And I've seen it. And I'm going to see it a lot more before I die. People get a chunk of money and they think it's going to put them in happiness. I'm here to tell you, it's not. If you get a chunk of money, you better use it wisely and use it for the work of the Lord. And He will give you the wisdom to hang on to some of it and to use it throughout your life. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Those boys got that money. Not a soul could talk to them. Nobody could tell them anything. They ran in the store, pulled a big wad out, and threw it down and got that beer and stuff. Nobody could say anything to them that would turn them from their way. And they went their way and ended up where they are today. He said, my son, hear my instruction. Hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace. There'll be an ornament of grace and wisdom. There'll be an ornament of grace and wisdom. Without she uttereth her voice in the street. Let me tell you something. Young man, 14, 15 years old, turning 16. Mom and Daddy buy you a car. And this car has the ability to go much, much faster than your ability to drive it and to control it. And they say, son, we love you and we're going to give you this car. We want you to obey all the speed limits and laws. Would you obey the speed limits and laws? And you say, oh yeah, and don't mean it. And 2 weeks later, they're putting a gravestone on your body because you did not listen to them and you ended up in the grave. You better listen to your mother and father. If that sign says dangerous curve 45 miles an hour and you say, well, you get to school that morning and you brag to the boys, hey, you know that dangerous curve back there says 45 miles an hour? Yeah. I made it at 65. Well, you did one time. You may never do it again. The next time you hit 65, you may be rolled over into the woods. Hey, I'm an experienced talker. I'm the guy that rolled them over. I'm the guy that did it. I'm the guy that said, I don't care what the sign says. I'm going to drive the way I want to drive. And God spared me only because He had to spare me for this reason, I guess, so I could be on here and tell you that you're looking at the biggest fool in the world when he was young. But God spared me through foolishness. And here I am today. Wisdom is called she. She crieth in the chief places of the concourse, in the openings of the gates, in the city. She uttereth her words, saying, how long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. He's asking a question to a crowd. And in this crowd, he says to this crowd, where are you in the crowd? Which one do you fit? Do you fit the simple ones? Do you fit the scorners that delight in doing wicked things? Following a path with no end? One of the poorest men that I know has made more money than I ever made in my life, and doesn't have the ability to get home with that money on Friday night because he stops down at every store between the time he cashes his check till he gets home and buys lottery tickets. And he's won one or two things, but he's never really won anything. If he won $1 million right now, it wouldn't bring him back to what he has done with his life and the misery he's in, because he can't even pay the rent, can't do anything, because he's caught up in a foolish act that has got him in misery. Oh, fools, when will you hear? Turn at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. God speaking here. Because I have called, and ye have refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regardeth. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of you have my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh in desolation, and your destruction cometh, and the whirlwind, when the distress and anguish cometh upon you. We're going to stop right there for a second. I'm a person who deals with people on a full-time basis. Anguish and distress are two of the main things in this world today, right now. I'm working with some people. I'm working with people, all kinds of regrets, all kinds of anguish, all kinds of. I don't know if I want to live anymore, Brother Peter. I just think I do better just to take my life, Brother Peter. No, let me tell you what God does. God's a fast page turner. He turns the page every second. God's turning the page. He's turning a page every second. That page says grace, justification, and the spiritual things that are written in this book. And I'm turning the page every second. You want to get on that page? When that page gets turned and you say, God, forgive me of my sin, God says, I'm going to turn the page on your sin. Never more to be remembered. I'm going to cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. And you can't see through that page. And I, God, can't see through that page. I have cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. Never more to be remembered. Now the judge may remember it. The lawyer may remember it. You may still face a court trial. But God has already forgiven you. And you can rest in God that He's going to deliver you. If you have to go to jail, a year, 6 months, whatever, pray about it. Say, God, I'm going to get a Bible. I'm going to learn what that Bible says for me. And I'm going to pass it on to others. And you can be as happy in the jailhouse as you are outside the jailhouse. If your happiness and your peace is in God, and not in cigarettes and beer and dope and alcohol and everything else under the sun. If your happiness gets into the Bible and your happiness becomes in God, you won't need any of the other stuff. The Lord said, I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me. You keep your mind on the Lord, He will keep you in perfect peace. That's where it's all at. Look at the words, it's simple. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. I've seen 5-year-old, 6-year-old children get saved that could read a Bible verse and tell me what it said. What happened? God poured His Spirit on that 6-year-old child, and he read that verse and told me what that verse said. Verse 5 of the next chapter, chapter 2, says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. He will direct your paths. He will tell you moment by moment how to. Don't run ahead of the Lord. Don't run ahead of the Lord. Pray about it. Don't jump too quick. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. If you've been living evilly, what you got to do is look at everything you've been doing and say, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it, not going to do it, not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that anymore. Say, Jesus, forgive me of my sin, commit my heart, save my soul, and give me the ability to not do all that stuff anymore. He'll do it. He'll come through for you. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. I shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Wow. Man, what a place to be. What a place to be. Oh, wait. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruit of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and the presses shall burst out with new wine. Let me tell you a little story. My wife and I started tithing in 1972. We had 6 children. I was the only one working. We had 6 children in Christian school, all at one time. I didn't make enough money. I made some years $11,000, some years $13,000. I worked by myself painting. I didn't make much money. As a matter of fact, I made such small money that the IRS came after me and said, you can't live on the money you're making and have the kids in school and do all that you do. You can't do it. I said, well, God gives me increase. He takes the money that I make and gives me increase on that money. I can give Him 10% back, and He'll make the 90% I got left be 150%. And the IRS came after me and said, you can't do that. You can't live on that. We know you can't. You must be hiding money somewhere. I was as honest as I am sitting right here right now with my IRS reports, and they were right. And the devil couldn't believe it. The devil couldn't believe it. But God made it. And you know what? God's still doing it. He is still doing it. We are still tithing, and He's still doing it. And will until the day we die. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Honor the Lord with your substance, the first fruits. My wife and I have been down to church painting for a couple of days. When we paint a couple of days, we can make $100 or so. But we've been down to the church painting in the name of the Lord. So we get no money from that. But God will give us a job down the road that will pay more than that. Or somebody will send us a box of clothes that says, hey, Pete, I think these clothes will fit you. And here's a box of clothes that I can wear, and they fit me. Yes, they may be secondhand, but I haven't had to go out and buy any clothes. My wife hasn't had to go buy any clothes. Somebody came and borrowed my truck the other day. It came back full of gas. Borrowed my wife's car. It came back full of gas. Hey, the Lord provides. The Lord provides. The Lord provides. In mysterious ways, He provides. Look what He says. He says, my son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of His correction. Back over in chapter 1, tells us how a man dies, ends up dying and going to hell. Because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would have none of me, none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call on me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they have hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despised my reproof. Therefore shall they eat the fruit of their own way, be filled with their own devices, and for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. And the last verse in there is a but. And it's a big but. It says, but whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quieted from the fear of evil. I've trusted in God in 1972, 3 o'clock in the morning, drunk as a skunk, out there laying on the side of my car where I wrecked it, and looked up and said, God, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin, commit my heart, save my soul. He did. He turned the page. And when I looked up, there was a white, clear white page. Nothing written on it against Peter. Nothing written against Brother Peter. Now I'm Brother Peter. I was just Peter. Now I'm Brother Peter. Now I'm Son Peter, a new son of God. Now I'm a child of the King. The King that I serve not only just owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, he owns the hills that the cattle are on. Do you not think that he could let me live on one of those hills and let me live free if he wanted to? He sure could. Yes, he could. And he can do the same for you. If you should happen to be an inner city person, my heart goes out to you. If you should happen to be one of those watching this today, right now, that's down there putting your artwork on the train cars, I'm here to tell you right now, I appreciate your artwork. I appreciate your ability. But there is something you need to do. You need to ask Jesus to forgive you of your sin, come in your heart, and save your soul, and change your circumstances. You may go back down there and do some more artwork. But if you do, you can go down there as a changed person and witness to others and say, look, the Lord has saved me. Many of these other things that I used to do when I was doing this artwork, I'm not doing anymore. And he can change you. You can become the preacher where you live, in the area you live in. You may not have to change vocations of what you do, but you do have to change what you say and what you think, and how you go about your life. And you can tell others about God. God wants to save you if you're down there spraying those cars. He wants to save you if you're out doing other things. If you're doing things that aren't illegal, he wants to save you. He wants to save you if you're doing things that are illegal, and you won't do those illegal things anymore. So, listen to Brother Peter. It's all in what you do with Jesus that gets you out of hell. Otherwise, you're headed for a devil's hell forever, forever, and forever. He that refuses God on his dying bed refuses God forever. Do not refuse God today. Well, this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. My time has come and gone. See you next time. Bye-bye.